Toastmaster members. So I'm originally from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, a large city. It's about 30 minutes north of Miami. And for 23 years of my life, I knew nothing but Florida's beaches and palm trees, the typical imagery that you think of when you think of Florida. However, in addition to Florida's sunshine, sticky humidity, and rain while the sun is out weather, there's a season when tropical storms and hurricanes are predominant, appropriately dubbed the hurricane season, which takes place from the 1st of June to the end of November. With that said, I'd like to talk to you today about an experience I had with Frances, the Category 2 hurricane in 2004. More specifically, I will discuss the days leading up to the hurricane, the time spent during the hurricane, and a little bit about the aftermath of the hurricane. So, in 2002, my parents and I moved from renting a cramped apartment into owning our own house. The house was pretty spacious, it had a big backyard, and there was a huge mango tree in the backyard. So fast forwarding to 2004, early September, a few days before the Hurricane Frances, it was a pretty stressful time. So I guess for people from the north or New England who don't know much about hurricanes, I guess you can relate it to a snowstorm. So in a snowstorm, everybody's panicking, the shelves are bare, and you can't find a single snow shovel or a bag of salt anywhere. Similarly, with a hurricane in Florida, everyone's still panicking, the shelves are still bare, but the shovel is replaced with plywood used to board up windows, and the bag of salt is replaced with a bag of sand used to keep areas from flooding. However, we were a pretty prepared family, so we had our windows boarded up, and we had enough food to last us a couple of weeks. So eventually, during the night, Hurricane Frances made landfall, bringing with it howling winds and rain. My parents and I, we stayed in the house during the hurricane, but we could still hear the whistling wind and the debris flying around outside. About an hour and a half into the hurricane, the power went out and we were plunged into darkness. So we stumbled around for our flashlights in order to light the candles that we strategically placed around the house, just for this occasion, because we're prepared. But without the mechanical whirs of the appliances, you could hear all the noises outside, and it was a frightening experience. It's frightening because there's things going on outside, you know it's dangerous, but you can't see and you don't know exactly what's going on. So there was eventually a moment of calmness that settled in once the eye of the storm passed over us. Although it was night, we still rushed out in the calmness to see the damage that was done. And there was debris everywhere. Metal awnings from houses were strung out in the street, trees were down, and power lines were hanging in the street. It was a complete mess. But as the winds picked back up, we scurried back into our house, noticing that there was no damage to our immediate front of the house. As the hurricane raged on, more of the same continued. But Hurricane Frances was a slow-moving hurricane, so we eventually tired out in the night and all fell asleep. The next day, I eagerly woke my parents up, and we went to survey the front of the house. Being in the daylight, we saw much more of the devastation that we saw previously in the night. Half a block down the street, there was a church which had its roof caved in and was shredded to pieces. Our neighbors to the left, they had their tree in the front yard fall and crush their car. There were garbage bins and tree branches and recycle bins littering the streets. A large projectile crashed into our gate, warping it a little bit. But this was just the front view of our house. So we took what seemed like the longest walk in the world to the backyard, and there we saw that our mango tree, the large one, had split in half and fell only a couple of inches from our house. Any closer and it would have smashed our roof in. So our house, our cars, and more importantly my parents and I, we came out of the whole ordeal unscathed. So we were lucky. In the end, it took Florida Power and Light about a week to restore power to the neighborhood. And during this time, school was closed, which I enjoyed because secretly deep down, I wish that the school had been blown away by the hurricane. It of course wasn't, but that's any kid's wish at that age. But staying home meant that I was forcibly recruited into the cleanup crew. The cleanup crew had to go through and clean up the debris from the streets and restore the neighborhood to what it used to be. And this I did not enjoy. Thank you, Toastmasters.